The weight of choices. Lena stood by the window, staring at the foggy street below. The quiet of the early morning surrounded her, but it did nothing to calm the storm brewing inside her. In just a few hours, she would have to make the biggest decision of her life. She could feel the weight of it in her chest, pressing down on her with every passing minute. The letter on the table behind her was the cause of her anxiety. It was the letter she had been waiting for, the one that would either change everything or keep her stuck in the life she had always known. The envelope was simple, but inside it was an invitation to study photography at a prestigious school halfway across the country. The opportunity of a lifetime, Lena had thought when she first received it. Photography had been her passion ever since she was a little girl. Her camera had been her constant companion, capturing moments that others overlooked. She had always dreamed of becoming a professional photographer, traveling the world, telling stories through images. But now, as the reality of the decision set in, everything seemed uncertain. Her family had always expected her to stay close to home. Her father, a respected doctor in their small town, had always believed that success came from stability, from following the path that was set before you. He had always wanted Lena to take over his medical practice someday. But Lena had never shared that dream. She loved her family, but the thought of living the same life as her father, day in and day out, felt suffocating. She picked up the letter again, reading the words as if they might suddenly change. It was an offer from the best photography school in the country, a place where she could hone her skills, learn from the best, and possibly even have a future that went beyond the small town she had known all her life. But there was one major obstacle: her family. They didn't understand her passion for photography. They didn't see it as something that could lead to a career. They wanted her to be practical, to settle into a life that was safe and predictable. Her mind wandered back to the conversation she had had with her father the night before. He had sat her down after dinner, his voice calm but firm. "Lena," he had said,
I know you think you have a future in photography, but this isn't a stable career. You need to think about your future. A degree in medicine, or even business, would give you a stable life, a life where you don't have to worry about struggling to make ends meet.
Lena had tried to explain her feelings, but her father wouldn't listen. He believed his way was the only way, and it hurt. It hurt that the one person she had always looked up to couldn't see her dreams as something worth pursuing. She sat down at the table, her fingers tracing the edges of the letter. She thought about the people who would miss her if she left. Her mother, who had always been her biggest supporter, even if she didn't always understand Lena's love for photography, and her friends, who had all grown up together and shared the same small town life. They were all waiting for her to make a decision, and Lena felt the pressure of their expectations on her shoulders. But the truth was, she didn't want to stay. She didn't want to live the life that had been laid out for her. She wanted something more, something that was hers to create. Her phone buzzed on the table, breaking her train of thought. It was a message from Mia, one of her closest friends.
Are you going to tell them today?
Lena stared at the message for a moment before typing her reply.
I don't know if I can. You have to, Lena. This is your chance. Don't let it slip away.
Lena's heart raced as she read Mia's words. Mia had always been supportive of Lena's dreams. She was the one person who truly understood her need to leave, to follow her passion. But Mia was also the one who had stayed behind, content with the life they had always known. It was easy for Mia to encourage Lena to leave. It wasn't her family, her home, her whole world at stake. Lena stood up again, pacing the room. She thought about her mother's soft smile when she talked about Lena's future. She thought about the way her father had looked at her the night before, his eyes full of disappointment. Could she really leave everything behind? Could she turn her back on the people who had always been there for her? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She knew who it was without even looking. "Lena," her mother's voice called from the other side. "Can we talk?" Lena closed her eyes, taking a deep breath before opening the door. Her mother stood there, looking concerned but kind as always.
Good morning, sweetheart.
Her mother said, stepping inside.
Are you all right?
Lena smiled weakly, trying to hide the turmoil inside.
I'm fine, Mom. Just thinking.
Her mother raised an eyebrow.
About the letter, I assume.
Lena nodded, unable to speak at first. She felt the tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them away.
I don't know what to do, Mom. I want to go, but I don't want to disappoint Dad.
Her mother sat down beside her, her hand gently resting on Lena's.
Lena, you have to follow your heart. I know your father is worried, but you can't live your life based on his expectations. This is your future, your dream. You've always had a passion for photography, and I've seen how happy it makes you.
Lena looked at her mother, grateful for her support, but still torn.
But what if I fail? What if it's not enough?
Her mother smiled softly.
Failure isn't the end, sweetheart. It's just a part of the journey. If you don't try, you'll always wonder what if. And I don't want you to live with that regret.
Lena felt the weight of her decision even more now. Could she really take that step? Could she leave everything behind and follow her passion?
Your father loves you,
Her mother continued.
but he wants what he thinks is best for you. You need to show him that you can create your own path, one that makes you happy.
Lena sat in silence for a moment, thinking about what her mother had said. It wasn't going to be easy. But maybe it was time to stop living for others and start living for herself. After a long pause, Lena spoke again.
I'll tell him.
The next day, Lena sat across from her father in the quiet dining room. The air felt thick with tension. Her mother had left them alone, sensing that this conversation needed to happen without distractions.
Are you sure about this, Lena?
Her father asked, his voice a mix of concern and resignation.
This is a huge step, and I'm not sure you understand what you're giving up.
Lena took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts.
I do understand, Dad. But this isn't just about leaving home. It's about following my dream. Photography is what I love. It's what makes me feel alive.
Her father's face softened slightly. I know you love it, but love doesn't pay the bills. Love doesn't guarantee success,
I know,
Lena replied.
but I can't live my life based on fear. If I don't try, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I want to see what I'm capable of.
Her father looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed his shoulders slumping.
I've always wanted the best for you. I thought the best was here, with us.
Lena reached out, taking his hand.
I'll always be your daughter, Dad. But I have to do this for myself.
For a moment, there was silence. Then her father spoke, his voice softer now.
I don't want you to fail, Lena. But if this is what you need to do, then I'll support you.
Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, and she hugged her father tightly. It wasn't easy, but she had done it. She had made the choice to follow her dreams. Months later, Lena stood in the middle of a bustling city, her camera in hand. The city was vibrant, alive with energy, and Lena felt a sense of freedom she had never known before. She had made it. She had taken the leap, and though the journey had been hard, it had been worth every moment. Her father had visited her once, a brief trip to see the new life she was building. He hadn't understood everything, but he had seen the spark in her eyes. That was enough for him. As Lena looked through the lens of her camera, capturing a fleeting moment in time, she knew she had made the right choice. She was living her truth, and it was more than enough.